Now, to take this conversation ahead, I do have right now Harish Iyer, who's an equal rights activist. He's been very vociferous on the entire issue, and he's been saying all along that he has a lot of hope from the Supreme Court. Now, Harish, as I say good evening to you, how do you see the first day of the entire hearing, the arguments that have been made, and the kind of responses so far, though they are very limited, that have come in from the Supreme Court? Are you still hopeful?
I am hopeful. I come from a country that prides itself on its plurality. I come from a country that prides itself on its diversity. And I'm very hopeful that the country will restore or rather grant me the right that every other citizen, every other heterosexual citizen of this country has. We are a country that stands for, doesn't stand for the majority, but even if I'm one person who happens to be someone who loves differently, but my love is valid. And as long as I'm an adult and I'm in love with another person and wish to go ahead by calling that relationship a marriage within the Special Marriages Act, I should be allowed to do so. I'm not bothering with anybody else. I'm just allowing जो प्यार करने वाले हैं उनको प्यार करने दो और साथ में रहने दो. बस हम यही मांगते हैं.
Harish, you make a very pertinent point, I think, and the point here is that a lot of people today have their own side of the story. They say we have decriminalized homosexuality and that should be the end of it. Now, do you believe that we as a country today should be going in for the next step? Though, we must again reiterate here that the centre says that they are not with this particular step. They cannot legalize the same-sex marriages. There have been multiple pleas also by the NCPCR and other agencies raising questions on issues then of succession, of adoption, and a lot of other things. Now, what really, Harish, here is the challenge? Why don't you simplify the entire argument for our viewers right now?
Presently, I'm one of the petitioners. So my petition is on the Special Marriages Act. All that we are seeking is that we need to remove, it just needs to be two consenting adults who wish to solemnize their relationship in the holy or not so holy, in the legal bond of marriage. So that's what's there, and it has brought in some sharp criticism from the centre. The centre has said that it's some kind of an elitist concept. But there are queer people everywhere. If you go to Antarctica, probably you'll find a gay Eskimo as well over there. So there are queer people everywhere. There are rich people who are queer. There are poor people who are queer. There are Hindus who are queer. There are Muslims who are queer. We exist everywhere. There's hardly a space where we do not exist because we are true to the human existence by itself. If they're human beings, there is a variety in human beings and we exist everywhere. So that's my argument. But yes, there has been, there are some people who are short-sighted. There's some people who are limited in their sight and they wish to limit our purview. They don't want us to get married. Just allow us to get married. We are not interfering with your marriage. Just allow us to get married and be with ourselves.
Okay, Harish, I quickly also want to take this opportunity to speak a little bit more about what the centre has said, because that's, I think, very, very important. And then we'll also listen in to what Mukul Rohatgi, who's been representing the petitioner here, has to say. Harish, the centre has told the Supreme Court, and I'm quoting now, that the same-sex marriage is an urban elitist concept that they say is far removed from the social ethos of the country. Extending the same-sex marriage beyond heterosexual unions will create a new institution. Now, the petitioners have time till Thursday to conclude the arguments, after which you will be seeing another set of arguments, only at the end of which the Supreme Court possibly is going to be opining whether same-sex marriages can be legalized in the country or not, Harish. And I would want to take one more response from you, but again, with your permission, I want to play out first this important bit from Mukul Rohatgi, the petitioner, who's arguing on behalf of the petitioner here, and he says, do not treat me differently. I am one amongst everyone, like what Harish said. And he said, even if there is one amongst a million, I have my equal fundamental rights. Listen in quickly to what he says, and then we get in Harish back in the conversation.
Kindly see, my lord, Penal Code by Macaulay. In fact, Justice Chandrachud has used, my lord, the full name of Macaulay, which I didn't, which said Babington. Yes. Then, my lord, these were laws introduced in different colonies under the British Empire. 47 is our constitution. 67, my lord, was the Sexual Offences Act enacted by Parliament, which legalized homosexuality in 67. Now, see, my lord, September 96, US is very, very, my lord, interesting. US federal government enacted DOMA, which stated that federal law shall not recognize the same-sex marriage. Because, my lord, pausing here for a minute, some states had started recognizing. So center came and said, we will not recognize, because they have state and central lordship. So they formed, my lord, this DOMA that we want to keep away. Then, my lord, came Lawrence versus Texas. This was a case where there was a raid, my lord, in the house of Mr. Lawrence. And during the raid, he was found to be, my lord, committing an act which was held to be this unnatural act. And he was then charged. Object was raid, but they found him, my lord, in the bedroom, etc. So, in Lawrence, my lord, the Supreme Court upheld the right of Lawrence. It struck down, my lord, that Texas law, which was, my lord, akin to our 377. Then came Nas. Now see 2013. In Windsor, my lord, the Supreme Court struck down DOMA. That is, that federal law was struck down by the Supreme Court, my lord, by the US Supreme Court. Then came, my lord, Kaushal, which reversed, my lord, the Delhi High Court. Then 2013, the UK Parliament enacted another act to confer equal rights and protect dignity of same sex. 2014 is our NALSA. Now mark 15. In 15, my lord, in Obergefell, it recognized the rights of same sex, legalized the same in the country. My lord, your lordship may mark, and I will show the definition of marriage in this judgment is classic. What is marriage? How, my lord, important it is. I'm going to show that. How important it is. And this happened, my lord, in 2015. And this is referred to, my lord, in Navtej and Shaira Banu both. Then, my lord, came Puttu Swami. I am not reading, my lord. But there are some passages, my lord, of His Lordship Justice Chandrachud, as His Lordship then was. And I have given those passages which I am going to read. And some passages of Justice Sanjay Kaul. Then, my lord, Shafin Jahan and Shakti Vahini. Here also, my lord, if I may say so, the common thread is the Chief Justice. In regard to, my lord, the right to marry a person of your own choice. If you have a right to marry, my lord, a person of your own choice in the heterosexual group, and we are identical to them in terms of our right, it follows, it's QED, it follows that we should also get it.
So that is the argument, remember, being made on day one of the hearing in the same-sex marriages case. And Harish, thank you for your patience. Now, what Mukul Rohatgi says, I think, is extremely important, and we must tell our viewers more about this. He says that Article 377 is gone, but you remain in your closet. He says, when you deny me the right of marriage, you deny me citizenship. If you deny me citizenship, you are saying that you are no good. You're not equal to a citizen under the preamble, so you stay where you are. Now, you know, I do understand where he's coming from, but why do you believe that the centre, bodies like the NCPCR, Harish, today are not seeing merit in the argument that is being made by all of you?
See, you could stick to an idea of an India which is progressive, which is open, which is all welcoming of people of all genders and all sexualities. Or you could stick to an idea of India where you think that people will be regressive. It needs to be rights need to be limited to a certain number of people. Some people need to be favored over the other population. The majority needs to be favored over the minority. So there are these two ideas which can exist, and I do believe that that the Honorable Supreme Court will also allow and also listen to the arguments that are made by the opposing bench, because I'm still trying to figure out, because there is enough science and enough evidence to show that that LGBTQIA plus people are not just their relationships are not just as good or as bad as heterosexual relationships. They also are as good as bad as parents. I mean, we don't have examples over here because we don't have the right to adopt. But if you go to the US and you check the right couples who have same-sex couples who have children, you realize that most of the children are happy, just as heterosexual children would be. So, so I don't know the scientific basis of their argument, and if they are making a moral basis, their moral basis has got no standing. No standing, because morality has, while we were debating Section 377, we have had this debate. We have gone through this, and we have established that LGBTQI plus people, it's a natural variation of nature. It is not a deviation of nature. And it's no abnormality that we are queer. And if we are not abnormal, if we are loving someone and it's a natural tendency, and the court has ruled that it's a natural tendency to love another person of the same gender or love another person, regardless of their gender, I think it's a natural progression, right? Why should, if you are given the right to marry, to love someone of the other gender, and you can marry the other person, and the code, the Section 377 also gives me the right to love a person of the same gender. Why should I not be? Why should I be denied marriage, and why should you be given the right to marry? I'm just asking you to equalize the whole thing, and I'm not even saying same-sex marriage. The right word to use is marriage equality, because it should be equal for everybody, whether it's a man and a transgender, two trans people, an intersex person, any two adults wishing to get married, getting into a legal bond of marriage, they should be allowed to do so.
Okay, you know, Harish, we must never let hope die down, and I think that is the basic premise. You won the first fight with the decriminalization of Article 377. Let's see where this fight goes. It's been a pleasure speaking to you. We look forward to speaking to you again.
Likewise.
And we'll see how that story develops. As I thank Harish right now, but